Okay, it's been a while. And the video idea that struck me like lightning just now is not to decay. There is a lot of things that I am anxious about in the future that would drastically change my lifestyle. But the goal is not to fall into patterns of decay. And these are always, things that can start off, rather enjoyful, hedonistic. I've talked about my bouts of hedonism before, but the problem with it was the decay aspect of it, you know? And for me, decay is when things start to diminish your results in life, when things start to pull back what you can do as a person or as an individual in life, you know. Even to some extent I still partake in things that decay me, I will always admit that I have a problem with video games because it takes up a lot of time. Video games are the vice that will remove your time and remove your window of potential. So a lot of people who are younger, they should avoid video games a lot more because that's the most time you'll ever have and the most energy you'll ever have. And you can use that to generate a lot. But, it's still enjoyable, It's it is a very big habit of decay that, could be somewhat innocuous because you're not, damaging your health overtly. You could be damaging your eyes or, fucking up your sleep schedule. But it doesn't mess with your health like, let's say, something like alcohol does or something like, heroin. It's not anything like that. But it does decay your free time. There's other things that decay you as a person. Alcohol is literal decay, you know, and they call it alcohol or something of that term. There's some esoteric term that's pretty much the spirit or the flesh eating spirit or something like that. But alcohol will decay you. It will decay your mind. It will decay your body. It will decay your liver. Um, Weed decays your initiative and it decays your drive and it will also decay your courage to some extent. Some people aren't as courageous as they usually are without weed. Um, and masturbation is also something that decays courage. It decays autonomy to some extent, and it will decay your life essence as a person. You know, there's a bunch of different things, but you don't want to fall into vices that just overall decay you as a person. Overall take away from you. You can have the most burden in the world and still be the person who takes on that burden. Um, a lot of what is taught in Eastern philosophy, I believe, or especially around Buddhism and whatnot, is that we can do a lot around the premise of desire and also around the premise of avoiding pain. And the thing is that when we dive into pain, when there's an acceptance of that pain and an acceptance of the internal state that is triggering you, you don't do things to run away from that internal state. You don't do things to ease that path or alleviate it. You just accept it for what it is and you build on top of it. All of the grand structures, the kingdom of heaven, and everything you build around you as a byproduct of, seeking the kingdom of heaven is because of that acceptance. It's because you've accepted that that pain is inevitable, that pain in general is inevitable, and instead of trying to run away from it, you move through it. Like that saying says, the only way out is through. Yeah, the goal isn't to find another way. The goal is to get better at dealing with it, you know? To get stronger. That is, that is the metaphysics behind it. You get stronger from burden, and it's beyond acceptance, It, you should have a gratitude for it to some extent, It's like, thank you for making my life hard, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, you know? Thank you for making my life hard. I can now gain the skills to overcome this. And when you have that outlook, it allows you to be anti-fragile in that sense. I forget who wrote this. I believe it's an article or a book, but there is that term anti-fragile is above resilience. You see, resilience is the ability to bear this this weight, this burden, this cross. That's your ability to bear it, but you're not overcome. It's not an overcoming of this burden. You're not surpassing the burden, but you're dealing with it. And that's a step. That's one step. It's better than victim mentality and victimhood. That's better than, falling to the burden and going like, there's nothing I can do. Because then that is truly hell. But anti-fragility is not even, well, in the sense that it was talked about, it's not even being in the place in which this burden would affect you. But on top of that, I will add my rendition to it. It's seeing this burden and seeking it, looking for it, seeking what the burden will add on top of you as a person. And truly, that really is a gift because, a lot of people do fall to the victim mentality. They fall in, or just fall into a state where they want to bear with the burdens that come across in their life with, their methods of decay, their hedonistic outlets. And, it makes them feel good in the short term. But like a Faustian deal, everything that comes from short-term gain will cost your long-term livelihood and well-being. So don't seek out methods of decay or allow hedonism or your outlets, your vices to decay you. It's that simple, it it has been doing that to me for a while, Like I said, I still struggle with video games, and maybe me saying that is actually a problem, actually, now that I think about it. Saying that you struggle with something, it frames your mind to to identify with that struggle, going like, yeah, I struggle with video games, and your mind's gonna find ways for you to continue to struggle, So I don't. I guess the way to reframe that is that video games are a vice in my life, but I do overcome burdens. I overcome many burdens. You always want to look at what you got. And the burdens that I have overcome let me know that I can overcome more. So that's my video, and thank you for watching.